Hello, welcome to Gunfighter Life. As always, I am your host, Michael Milito. First and foremost, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. It's first and foremost in everything in my life. This podcast is no different. A little bit about me in this podcast. I write this, or rather speak this, hopefully coming at it from a real-world perspective with some real-world experience. So I grew up hunting and shooting at a very, very early age. Grew up shooting and hunting in the backwoods of the South, and I did my first formal competition when I was still a juvenile, still underage. I won my first shooting competition when I was still underage. Joined the Marine Corps at 17. I did 2 combat tours in Iraq, where by God's grace I made it back in one piece. I was in the infantry, which is your quintessential gunfighter. And after that, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps, where I taught urban and desert operations, all different aspects of that. And then I went to work for LAPD. I worked some of the nastiest streets in LA, and by that measure some of the nastiest streets in the country. And by God's grace, again, carrying a gun, made it back in one piece, not because I'm anything special, but because God chose to spare me. I also served in the United States Army, full-time and part-time National Guard, combat MOSs mostly, some other MOSs as well. I've done a lot of shooting competitions, anything, mostly rifle and pistol, and I've won state championships or gold medals in both disciplines. I've also competed in shotgun and archery and everything from muzzleloader to even hatchet throwing I've competed in. So quite a bit of competition shooting background. And my day-to-day job now, I won't say who I work for or exactly what I do because I'm still currently employed in there, in no way affiliated with this podcast. But I am the commander of a tactical team, a response team in a fairly big metropolitan area, which, obviously gunfighting is the backbone of our job. So it's very much part of my day-to-day life and training. I was just training this morning. In fact, I took a day off so I could train for my job because I didn't feel like I was getting enough training. So, in keeping with that, I'll get into today's topic and something I texted a group of friends of mine, and it's a little mantra of mine. I don't think I'm the first one that came up with it. Who knows? But a little basic thing to live by, one of the basic sayings I live by. I've got a few, but one is know God, know yourself, and know your weapon. Know God, know yourself, and know your weapon. So today we'll get a little bit philosophical, and forgive me, my Paleo-Hebrew is rudimentary at best. Shema, O Israel, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Ahim. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And Jesus said the greatest commandment, he quotes this one from Deuteronomy. Here, I believe it's Deuteronomy, it might be Leviticus. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. There's one God. There's only one God. If you believe in any other God, you're wrong. There's only one God. There's not a pantheon. We're not pagans. If you are, then that's not cool. God's very clear. You shall worship him and him only. Jesus said the greatest of all the commandments. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Everybody wants to wonder what the point of life is. The point of life is to know God and have a relationship with God. Done. That's the point of life. Because one day, unless Jesus comes back the second coming before you die, you're going to die. The point of this life is to grow closer to God and grow in relationship with God. And, the whole point of heaven is to be eternally in contact, in relationship with a God in a way that we can't be on this physical plane. So, know God. That's first and foremost. What good is it to be the best gunfighter in the world and you die and go to hell? That doesn't serve you very well. I don't care how good a gunfighter you are. God can take your life at any time. You could be the best gunfighter and somebody that's never fired a gun before in their life Some drug addict can walk behind you with a $150 high point and shoot you in the back a couple times and you're dead. So, first and foremost, know God. And then know yourself. And I would submit the best way to get to know yourself is to know the God who made you, because He made you, He designed you. You ever do something and wonder, why did I do that? I don't know why I did that. I don't even want to do that, but I did it anyway. God knows you better than you could ever know yourself. So the way to get to know yourself better is to seek God first, and He will show you yourself. He will show you who you really are and who you should be. And the whole point is to become more like God. Now, we'll never be God. That's a whole philosophical thing that some religions, Mormons and stuff, believe. But actually, what I think they believe, I'm not a Mormon, but and I've got nothing against them. But there's only one God, and you'll never be God. But it is a good thing to strive to be like God. So know God, know yourself. And then the third one, which is what we'll talk about, because this is gunfighter life, which is obviously know God, know yourself, and then know your weapon is the third most important. But I guess you could throw in there, know God, know yourself, know your wife, and know your weapon if you're married, because you're one flesh. But anyway, let's not get too far off topic. Know your weapon. The point of today's topic. Know your weapon. Now, how do you get to know your weapon? Well, the same way you get to know God and get to know yourself or get to know any subject. You spend time with it. You spend time doing it. You spend time. That's the first and foremost thing. Now, there's an adage that I learned from a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps when I was still, I forget what rank I was, but I was pretty early on my military career. And what he said always stuck with me. And I read it again recently, and I was like, wow, I wish I remembered that more often. Is that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Now, as I said, I'm the commander of a tactical team, and I have guys on the team who I love dearly and I would give my life for, but some of them, they just want to go out and shoot a bunch of rounds because it's fun, and it is fun, and that's great, but that's not going to make you a better gunfighter, and that's not going to necessarily get you to know your weapon. In fact, you could go out and shoot a whole buttload of rounds and get worse, because you're not training the right way. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You can go out and shoot 7 rounds and become a much better shooter. In fact, you can go out and shoot no rounds. I think dry firing, I've said this to my guys, is more important than live firing if I only had to pick one. But to get to know your weapon, you do have to spend time with it. Spend time dry firing with it. Spend time getting to know it. Spend time with it, just like any relationship that you foster. You have to spend time. You have to dedicate part of your life to it. Just like reading the Bible every day, get to know God. Spending time in prayer, getting to know God. Spending time, just out in the wilderness, getting to know yourself, away from the distractions. So, a weapon is the same way. Get to know that weapon, bond with it. If it's a hunting weapon, take life with it. Nourish yourself with something that God provided and that you took with that weapon. You'll bond with it. You'll form bonds with it. I have guns that I've killed, I don't know how many animals with. I got notches in the side of the stock, but I've bonded with that weapon. So get to know yourself, get to know your weapon. Spend time with it, train with it. I've had guns that I've had for a long time. I didn't really bond with them until I took them to a training class. Train with them hard, break them and fix them. That's another big thing to get to know your weapon. Maintenance on it, taking it apart and putting it back together. One of my first competition guns was an M14, M1A, take your pick. But I remember literally taking that thing apart and putting it back together blindfolded. And even though I don't even own an M14 right now, I could still take it apart and put it back together blindfolded, even though it's been years, because I got to know that weapon. And there's something to that. Same way with, any other weapon that you carry for years to take apart and put back together. That's another part of spending time with it. You bond with that weapon. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with buying new guns and getting new guns. I certainly do that. But the guys that always buy new and different guns and don't spend time bonding with that one gun, you're really missing out. Know your weapon. Have confidence in it. Know that at any time, whether you can make a shot or not make a shot, or where you have to aim with a certain distance, a certain type of ammo. If you pick up that gun, you know where you have to aim to hit that target. You know what your sight picture needs to look like. So, knowing that, you get that by forming that bond and that relationship with that weapon, having confidence in it. And then also the flip side of that, equally important, is knowing when you can't make the shot, knowing that that sight picture's not good enough. I'm not going to pull that trigger. That takes discipline, that takes time, that takes bonding. Getting to know what ammo a gun likes and what ammo a gun doesn't like. Getting to know that it's reliable. Like, if you're going to carry a gun to trust your life with, you better have spent time with it and trained with it. You better have run that ammo that you carry, if it's your everyday carry gun. Like, you better know that gun. Like, I have a Glock 26 that I've taken and trained with and shot, and I know what ammo it likes and what ammo it doesn't like, and I know even at 50 yards, even though it's a carry gun, that I can hit that head plate with a proper sight picture, and I know where to aim, and I know what those sights look like, and I know what an acceptable sight picture is at different distances. I've bonded with that weapon, and I would encourage you to do the same. Get to know whatever your main carry gun is. I have a lot. I'm very blessed to have a lot of guns, and I have a couple of I would call my core guns. Like, my generally everyday backup or deep concealed carry gun is a 357 J-frame revolver that I've had for a long time and trained with, and before that I was a 38 special revolver, very much the same. And I know those guns. I know when to shoot double action, when to shoot single action. I know that affects my point of aim, point of impact. I know what ammo they like, what ammo they don't like. So, I know that. I know my Glock 26. I know that it's sighted in for 147 grain Winchester. Train and defend. I know that. I know what that sight picture looks like. I have my everyday duty guns, which are 2 STIs. One's an STI Marauder, one's an STI Hawk, but very much set up the same way. Not exactly the same sight, but pretty much the same sight picture. Same, very close to the same trigger. Like I said, not exactly the same, but I always like to have a backup from my go-to gun in case something happens, like something breaks on it. If you train hard, you will break a gun, and then I have a backup. But I very much know those guns, and I'm very confident. And when I strap that gun to my hip, literally going to work, I strap that gun on my hip, put it in the holster, and, well, not literally strap, I actually lock it in. It's like a locking system, a little bit more modern than a strap. But when I put that thing on my hip, I'm confident. I'm confident when I put that magazine in and slam the slide home that slide fully seats, that I know that I'm ready to go. And I know that because I've spent time with that gun. I've run classes with that gun. I've shot I don't know how many quals with those guns. I know that they work, and I'm confident. I know what kind of lube they like. I know, how much lube they need, how much is too much, all those things. And I know that because I've spent time with them. And I would encourage you to get to know weapons. I know that I switch back and forth between a Scar 17 and a little short AR pistol that I run as my primary long gun for work based on the mission. But I know with that Scar 17, man, I've got a very good optic on that. I know when I put that optic on there, as long as I give it a slow, steady press, that target is going to get hit. And it's going to get hit hard. I know how it shoots on a cold bore. I know how it shoots on a warm bore. Same thing with my new go-to hunting rifle, which is I'm very blessed to have a very nice 6.5 Creedmoor. It is a Kimber Adirondack, which is a very nice gun. It's kind of a dream gun of mine. And I'm going out to go hunt with it right now. As I'm recording this podcast, I'm going out to go hunting. So I very much know where to aim with a cold bore shot, where to aim with if my second follow-up shot, because the point of impact changes, but I know that. I know what kind of ammo it's sighted in for. All those things. Another thing, if it's a hunting gun, you got to spend time in the field with it. You can't just I had a guy, and it's a guy even that is a professional, and I was like, he's like, I got this new gun, and I was like, is it sighted? And he's like, it's factory sighted, and I'm like, no, that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing. You gotta sight in your rifle with your ammo. Even if somebody else sighted in with the same ammo, where there's no guarantee it's gonna shoot in the same place for you, you gotta sight in your gun with your ammo. And if it's a hunting gun, you better spend time in the field with it. You better carry it and know it, and bond with it. That's a real thing. So that's all I'll say about that. Get to know your weapon, bond with it, and get to know all the different aspects of that weapon. It's better to have one or two guns that you really know well and know your weapon than to have a bunch of guns in the gun safe that you never shoot. And there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of guns. I got a bunch of guns. But you better have that core that you know. Know God, know yourself, and know your weapon. Thanks, and have a blessed day.